this is Michelle from Symbio Science Education Centre. Today in this video, this is an introduction to IB biology video here. So I'm going to kind of talk you through the reading material that I personally would recommend in terms of notes making, as well as just, understanding the whole IB biology course in general. So in terms of reading material, and then I'll also kind of talk you through a little bit about like the topics that you kind of, just every single topics really like briefly. And then the third thing that I'm going to go through today would be a little bit on, in terms of some tips that I think it's pretty useful when it comes to notes making. And no matter whether you're doing a standard level or higher level biology, I personally think making your own notes is very, very important. Now, I know that for higher level topics, it's really, really content heavy. I can't lie about that. It's quite content heavy and there's quite a lot that you have to memorize. However, it really depends on you, because of course you can make notes for every single topic, but at the same time, if you're not really quite a notes making person, it's completely fine. You can find notes online, or you can just specifically, selectively make notes on topic that you personally think is a little bit harder to memorize. And key is, I feel like this is also a thing that a lot of people sort of have this misconception of, like, you need to memorize word by word in a textbook. And I personally don't really agree on that, because I think that understanding is still the first thing that you need. Of course, if you can understand a certain process, for example, glucose absorption in the small intestine, something like that. If you actually understand the process, it makes memorization a lot more easier. So it's not just a game of memorization and who can memorize more content. It's all about understanding too. So that's also what makes biology fun. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Okay. So let's have a look of the recommended textbook and online resources. So starting from the very left here, we got the main textbook, the Oxford textbook. Personally, I think this is a must to get. You could get it like a PDF version, or you can get the actual textbook. The actual textbook is around 760 something pages, so it is pretty thick of a textbook. So of course it is not very portable, but still I think it's very, very useful, because of the wording that they use in a textbook is very close to the wording that they choose to use in the exam paper. So that's why I think in terms of that, it is quite nice to have a reference book with you. So in terms of when, for example, in school, there are some topics that you couldn't really understand, you find it really hard to, you don't get it. So where's the best source of information? Of course, you use the textbook like a reference book. So you always check the information from the textbook. So I think it's good, because at the end of the day, this book is made based on the IB syllabus. So that's why you won't find any information or extra information that you don't really need. So technically speaking, every single thing in this textbook could be tested. Of course, there are some topics that are more, they would come up more often in exam, but yeah, we'll leave that to another video. But personally, I would say out of these four material, the one thing that I would recommend you guys to get it, no matter in what form, it would be this textbook. Okay, but don't stress yourself out to read through every single word in this 700 something pages textbook. Of course, if you have the time and you have the determination, then I would say go for it. But at the same time, honestly, if just use it as a reference book, how you use your dictionary. You don't, obviously people probably might read through the dictionary, but at least for me, usually if there's like a term that I don't understand, I'll use my dictionary and check the word up, something like that. So same thing for the textbook. If there are certain topics in school that you feel like I'm not quite sure what's going on, then use the textbook. And obviously, if you still don't understand, then there are all sorts of different online material for you to help you as well. Okay, so that is material number one. Material number two will be the one sitting right next to it, and that would be the study guide. And I so happen to have the hard copy here, and my student gave this to me not long ago. So this is the study guide. It is a lot thinner. It has 202 pages, including the index. So you can see that the wording and everything, the content, everything is very, very, very concise, and like the font, it is actually pretty small. It's very yeah, it's very concise. You have every single thing here. Like not like the every single thing, but of course you have the most important content here. For example, you have this whole page of like protein denaturation and stuff. But yeah, so it is a very portable version of the textbook, I would say. But then personally, so this retail for 246.1 point one and 10 cents Hong Kong dollar. So it's not very cheap, but it is very, yeah, I keep saying the word concise, but yeah, it is very a concentrated version of the textbook. Well, I suggest you to get this. Well, let's put it this way, okay? If you're not planning to get the textbook, then this might help you in terms of getting a little bit of like the idea of what is actually in the textbook and the wording that they use. But then the downside of this is that, first of all, I don't personally think this is that cheap for 200 and something, $250 approximately. And at the same time, honestly, because everything is very concise, that I won't think that it would be that useful if you're learning something for the first time. Okay. But I do think that it would be useful if you actually have some idea of what's going on already and you can use this to refresh your memory. So I think this would be good. So for example, you've been revising for your test and then yeah, you don't really want to bring that 700 like 63 pages thick textbook to school, then yeah, in terms you can just bring this and then put it in your backpack and you're good to go. So it's very accessible, very portable source of information to refresh your memory. But then if you're planning to just use this and learn the whole IB biology course, I think that this won't be good enough because, as I said, it's very concise. So they actually skipped quite some parts in the textbook too. So yeah, but it's good that they still have some diagram included. So it is, yeah, will I say this is like 100% like a must to get, and not really, but you can consider. And of course, if your friends, if you have friends who are like graduating and they're not using it anymore, then why not? Okay. So yeah. Okay, the third material here would be this little guy here. So this is a website called Bio Ninja. Personally, I think that, sorry, let me just put down study guide. So the third material here would be a website called Bio Ninja. This is such an amazing website. I just want to say for every single subtopic, they have like a page on it and they have all the content that you need for IB biology, standard level, higher level, everything by subtopic. And you know the best thing, what the best thing is? The best thing is that they actually make like some mini poster for every single chapter as well. So if you want something really nice to look at, some visuals, you know, that helps you to memorize the content a lot better, then yeah, BioNinja is a very good website. I think that, and it's even more accessible and portable than this. You know, you just need your phone. They even have an app for a BioNinja. This is not an ad, by the way, but I just love using BioNinja. It's always on my like top few bookmarks. So yeah, if when there's anything that you feel like, oh, I don't really remember, you're on your way to school, you have a test in like 1 hour, and all of a sudden you need that refreshing memory sort of thing, then BioNinja, it's a very good source of information. But the downside would be sometimes it might contain a little bit extra information that you don't actually need. So some extra reading material there. So just be aware of, you know, there might be some extra content that would be perfect. Okay. So the last one here is Cognity with a K. It is a paid platform. Can't speak. Cognity. So it is a paid platform that you can use to get more notes and past paper. But as I said, you have to pay for it. So do I think that it is a must to get it? Definitely not. But yeah, I mean, if you have it, or if your school decided to, you know, for you to kind of get a subscription on that, then I mean, it's always good to get more past paper practice, right? So anyway, here are the 4 recommended reference material that I recommend. Okay, so once again, the 2 things that I think it's a must would be the textbook and Bio Ninja. Okay, so of course, if you have my notes as well, then you can also use my notes or just, use some online notes to help you. Okay, so moving on to the biology syllabus outline. So for both higher level and standard level, the internal assessment will account for like 20% of your total grade, and the external assessment will be 80% of your grade. So external assessment is basically the exam papers that students have to do at the end of the 2-year course. So let's have a look at the IA first. So internal assessment account for 20% of the final assessment and is assessed through a single individual investigation. So this is a very experiment-based sort of, oh my God, I can't, but you know what? I'm just gonna change this to experiment-based sort of assessment. So you have to come up with the research question yourself. You need to come up with a methodology on how to conduct the experiment, as well as at the end, you need to kind of analyze your data. You need to find statistical tests to test for the significance of your data, as well as you need to give like evaluation of the strength and weakness of your experiment as well. So yeah, this is pretty fun, but also a little bit stressful. So you can start thinking about and planning about like what kind of experiment you want to do later on. But if you still haven't have anything in mind, it's okay. Don't stress yourself out first. Yeah, always discuss it with your teacher or your tutor about like whether or not it is possible to kind of conduct an experiment like that. So yeah, okay, moving on to external assessment. So there are 3 papers that students have to do. So they're paper 1, 2, and 3. Paper 1 is a multiple choice paper. For higher level, that will be 40 questions. And then for standard level, there will be 30 questions in total. So it's just multiple choice question. And all the questions are arranged according to the topic. So you get question 1 is related to topic 1, and the last question of the paper will be the very last topic that you learned in the syllabus. Okay, so yeah, and then for paper 2 will be short answer and extended response question. And that's pretty much like the question that I usually refer to as essays. So meaning you would definitely get question that goes up to 8 marks. So you have to kind of explain something really you need to explain something in a lot detail. For example, questions be like, explain the process of DNA replication, explain the process of DNA translation process, not DNA translation, but yeah, the protein synthesis process, or even, 8 marker, explain different level structures of protein. So you need to go all the way from primary structure to quaternary structure in detail with the bonds mentioned and yeah, everything. So yeah. It is quite new if you actually did GCSE before. Yeah, it is a type of question that I personally like, but you kind of need a very thorough understanding for a topic first. But don't stress yourself out. Those are usually questions that are pretty broad, so that's why you have more to write. So yeah, okay. And also there will be some data handling question in both paper 2 and paper 3. So yeah. And then we have paper 3, of course, there's some database question, as well as some options topic that each one of you can actually choose to do different options. So here, you can have a look. On the next page here, we got the syllabus breakdown. So all the way from topic 1 to option D here. Okay, why is it not scrolling? Wait, sorry, technical problem. Okay, sorry, I'm back. So here's a syllabus component breakdown. So all the way from topic 1 to the options topic. So for standard level students, you'll be learning topic 1 to topic 6, okay? And then for higher level students, you have to learn all the way from topic 1 to topic 11. So yeah, don't be so like, oh my God, there are so many topics more. So yeah, don't worry too much, because some of these higher level topics are just extension to standard level topics. So it's not like as lengthy as the core topics. Some of them are pretty short actually. So yeah, for example, you can have a look here. It says like, for example, unit 10, genetics and evolution, that would be an extension to probably unit 3 and a little bit of unit 5. So yeah, it's pretty fun. And then that's it. And then for option bit, as I said, in paper 3, you actually need to do some data handling as well as an option question. So it really depends on your school, or really depends on what you personally prefer learning. So we have 4 options here. So briefly to explain all 4 here is that For option A, neurobiology and behavior, you will be learning some different parts of the brain. And yeah, it's actually pretty fun. So yeah, brain neuroscience in general. And then for topic B, it would be biotech, not biotechnology and bioinformatics. So that is actually a very technical subunit. You will be learning different types of microorganisms. You actually need to remember the name of that. And you also need to learn something about, for example, all these COVID testing. So we'll be learning a little bit about the mechanism, something called real-time PCR. And also learning something about, bioremediation. How do we use microorganisms to sort of like clean out environmental contaminants, stuff like that. Yeah, in general, I think this is a pretty difficult option, but then it is pretty fun, although it's very technical. So it will be useful if you're planning to do something bio-related in uni. Okay. And then for option C, ecology and conservation, really it's more about an extension of the ecology unit. You'll be learning some different conservation technique. You're learning some concept of secession and niche and stuff like that. So it is not the hardest topic, I would say, but the question, it is a little, because the question itself is sometimes it could be pretty vague. So it's easy to learn, but then if you want to get a high score for that paper, you do need to practice more in terms of the question. So yeah. It's easy to understand though. So, I mean, like option C, it is a topic that I personally think you can self-learn too. And the last option here would be option D, which is human physiology. So human physiology, it is pretty much, I wouldn't say an extension, but then it is just more physio. Okay, there are two topics of physio already. We have topic 6 and topic 11. So human physiology, you will learn a little bit more in terms of, for example, stomach function. You learn about the lining and what type of cells produce, like for example, hydrochloric acid, which type of cell produces the mucus that lines the stomach, and you're learning about the at the lungs function, and more importantly, the oxygen. So, for example, hemoglobin carrying oxygen, and how that kind of like oxygen dissociation curve thing, the Bohr shift thing. So you'll learn more about that. And you will also learn something about the liver, if I remember it correctly. So yeah, you'll learn about the liver function, as well as something on nutrition, malnutrition, and stuff like that. Okay. So yeah, all in all, that is like a general outline of the IB biology. So if there are any questions that you would like to ask, just leave it down in the comment section below. So yeah, last but not least, in terms of tips in studying IB biology, I would say make notes constantly after lesson instead of rushing it. And then also, if there's any tiny thing that you don't quite understand, make sure to ask your friend or your teacher or your tutor, because especially if you're doing higher level, I love higher level understanding based on, the foundation of standard level topics. So you really don't want to just, whatever, and it's not going to come up. I just want to say most of the time you think like that, it's going to come up in an exam or test. So really try your best to make sure you understand the detail in each topic. So yeah, and that's really about it. Enjoy your IB biology learning journey, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.